everyone. Welcome to Inside Winston Cup Racing. You're looking at the main straightaway of the famed Darlington International Raceway, the one they call Too Tough to Tame, and many drivers found it that way in the Heinz Southern 500. We have a lot for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing, and here's what's coming up.
Well, Harry Gant picked up his second victory of 1991 by winning the Heinz Southern 500. His first victory was the Winston 500 at Talladega. That incorporated a $100,000 bonus. His portion of the Winston Million. We'll show you how Harry went to victory lane coming up.
Dale Earnhardt drove to victory lane on Saturday at Darlington, taking the Gatorade 200. But Bobby Labonte may have been the big winner, taking over the Busch Grand National points race. I'll have all the highlights.
We'll also profile Kyle Petty's rocky ride this season. After winning early in the year, a crash at Talladega sidelined him until last weekend at Darlington. You'll hear from Kyle on what it's been like to get back in the saddle.
Today's show is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
One manufacturer has more NASCAR victories than anyone. More NHRA Pro Stock victories than anyone. More consecutive IMSA GTO victories at Daytona than anyone. And more off-road victories in the last 5 years than anyone. That manufacturer is Ford. No wonder nobody enjoys the weekend like Ford.
In America, your car is not just something you own. It's a part of your life. To give your car complete protection, Texaco is introducing new Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil with not one but 3 kinds of protection against heat stress, starting friction, and engine dirt. New Haviland Formula 3. Add more life to your car.
These championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Full roast out here. We're 1,000 miles from anywhere. Is that a ship? No one will save us.
3 Miller Genuine Drafts.
Cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its real draft taste, the world is a very cool place.
Here last week that speculation was that Jeff Bodine would be driving for Bud Moore in the Motorcraft Ford in 1992. That was confirmed here this week, as well as Morgan Shepherd going to the Wood Brothers Citgo Ford team. And there was some other news that came out of Darlington this week. For more on that and highlights of the Heinz Southern 500, let's go to Randy.
In news leading up to the Heinz Southern 500, Winston Cup veteran David Pearson was inducted into the National Motorsports Press Association Hall of Fame in ceremonies here at Darlington. Of course, Pearson is second only to Richard Petty in victories. Pearson has 105 career Winston Cup victories. Well, there's been a crew chief replacement, this one with the Quaker State Buick that Brett Bodine drives. Crew Chief Wayne Bumgardner has been relieved of his duties on that team. Well, during qualifying here at Darlington, it was all Davey Allison. He broke the event record, which was held by Bill Elliott. Davey, along with Ernie Irvin and Harry Gant, were all looking to secure $100,000 as their portion of the Winston Million if they could win this event. Davey Allison was also looking for an additional $114,000 if he could win from the pole. That added to the Unical bonus, he could win $300,000 by winning the Heinz Southern 500. Well, there's some other news as well for fans this time. There's a new team starting up in 1992, and it's called Team USA. And you, the fan, can be a partial owner or sponsor with that organization. The driver is yet to be picked. They had an unveiling here at Darlington, and we talked to the team director about the plans for 1992.
Basically, the way the program works is fans send in a $125 annual membership sponsorship fee. It's not an ownership group. They are member sponsors. And we're taking the corporate sponsorship level and bringing it down to the fans level. This is their VIP tent. This is their hospitality suite. This is their car to sponsor.
If you wish to become a sponsor on Team USA, this is the number you can call for information. Call Team USA Motorsports at 1-800-835-3367.
Today's Winston Cup highlights are brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
On the line in the 42nd annual Heinz Southern 500 was not just the money, but the memories of being able to beat one of the toughest tracks on the circuit. And more often than not, it was done by simply surviving. The field quickly sorted out around the 1.366-mile layout, with pole sitter Davey Allison in command. The first spin and caution came on lap 19 for the number 19, Chad Little. That allowed everyone to take on tires, and some teams would use as many as 40 before finding their way to the finish line some 3 hours and 45 minutes later. Rusty Wallace wouldn't need many for his Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac as his engine sprang a leak on lap 70 and eventually stopped putting out on lap 214. Alan Kowicki would lose the engine in his Hooters Ford on lap 148. Although there were 19 different lead changes among 9 drivers during the day, the first 150 laps were logged with Allison atop the leaderboard most often, while consistent runs were being registered by Ernie Irvin and Mark Martin. But on lap 151 of the 367 scheduled, handsome Harry Gant dealt Davey back to second and put the hammer down. Harry held the field in check for 82 of the next 84 circuits, giving up the lead only during scheduled gas stops. And it was under these scheduled stops that Dale Jarrett's car quit in turn 4, bringing out the 4th of 8 yellow flags. Under the yellow, Darrell Waltrip drove his Western Auto Chevy behind the wall with brake problems. Waltrip would finish 24th. Gant gave the lead back to Davey Allison when Morgan Shepherd and Dale Earnhardt hit in turn 1. The wreck took Ricky Rudd out of contention and padded Dale's points lead to 89 over Ricky as Rudd would finish 15th. The final yellow flew when Michael Waltrip was hit by Davey Allison. Allison had a sticky throttle, and that forced him to pit repeatedly under the caution. He would finish 12th, 4 laps down, keeping the Unical bonus alive and up to $121,000 at Richmond. On the restart, the Folgers Ford of Mark Martin stopped percolating, and he went from second to finishing 29th. Over the final 70 laps, it was all Harry Gant. Earnhardt had second in the bag until he broke an axle with less than 40 laps to go. And Gant got not another challenge as he and his Skoll Oldsmobile took the checkered flag 11 seconds ahead of Ernie Irvin, who finished second. Kenny Schrader would take third.
You know, it's good just to be able to match that throttle and stay with Mark Martin or Bill Elliott or the 4-car, Ernie Irvin. And today, and the 28 today, we could stick right there, you know, no problem. So then all you had to do is just make it work in them corners, and it was good for us.
It's time for a short break. Still to come are highlights of the Busch Grand Nationals from here at Darlington, as well as a story on Kyle Petty on the roller coaster season he has had. And as we leave you for this break, here's the balance of the finishing order for the Heinz Southern 500.
High performance that doesn't stop when the rain starts. Aerofoil is the first true aerodynamic blade. At speeds as low as 50 miles an hour, the wind can cause your wiper blades to lose direct contact with the windshield. But Aerofoil's wind channel ports, aerodynamically engineered like an airplane wing, create the downward force needed to counteract wind liftoff and maintain the ideal rain-sweeping pressure. For maximum wet weather visibility when you need it the most. Aerofoil, the leading edge in wiper technology.
For years, you've heard me talk about the fine quality of Plastic Coat spray paints. Well, this year, Plastic Coat has asked Indy 500 winner Bobby Rahal to join me. Yeah, and I couldn't be happier. It's nice to finally have someone help me out. I mean, there's so much to say about Plastic Coat spray paints. The quality, the variety, but my favorite features, without a doubt, have to be how well they cover and how long they last.
I was sure this year's father-son picnic was on Saturday, but they said no, it was definitely on Sunday. And you know, they never listen to me.
Here's to wise men, wiser women, and comfortable blue jeans. Wrangler.
Catch 90 minutes of racing excitement from start to finish on the American Sports Cavalcade. The American Sports Cavalcade. 7 Eastern Sports Sundays on TNN. Sunday, live on TNN Motorsports. While Dale Earnhardt fights for the points, Ricky Rudd hungers for his share. But the other faces of NASCAR have their own agenda. Who falls to the back of the pack or who maintains control can change with the wave of a flag. And TNN's got the best seat for all the action. Live from the Monster Mile at Dover Downs, Winston Cup's Peak Antifreeze 500. Brought to you in part by Haviland Oil and Miller Genuine Draft. Next Sunday, 12 noon, 11 Central, only on TNN Motorsports.
When the 1991 NASCAR Winston Cup season started, it looked like it was going to be Kyle Petty's year. He started out by winning early at Rockingham. He won the pole there, and everything just seemed to be going his way. Then he got hurt at Talladega back in May, and of course it turned into a roller coaster year for him. He did make his comeback here at Darlington, and we take a look at Kyle Petty's year.
This will be the start of things for us, and hopefully it'll turn things around for us. Last year it carried us for a long time, so hopefully it'll carry us into a few more victories this year.
Kyle left the Rockingham racetrack with $131,000 in his pocket, and for the first time since 1979, it looked like a Petty had potential to challenge for the Winston Cup title. Kyle backed up his pole and race-winning run at Rockingham with a 6th place 2 races later in the Trans-South 500 at Darlington, and then a 2nd place finish after a marvelous run at Martinsville. KP headed into the 8th event, the Winston 500 at Talladega, looking for his 2nd win of the season. But on the 70th lap, Petty and his Pontiac were swept into the biggest crash of the 1991 season. He sustained a broken left thigh, an injury that would take him from behind the wheel for the first time in 12 years.
Doing good. Good. Oh, 83. Did get 83.
After surgery to repair his shattered thigh, his next race was a race to rehabilitate.
My day now consists of going in the mornings, and I go in about 9:30. I get out about 11:30 or 12, and we're still doing range of motion exercises, trying to stretch the muscle that is really just a knot right here in my leg, and trying to get my knee to work more and more. Do a lot of that stuff. Then we start on strength, doing leg presses, different things like that, doing squats, different things like that, trying to get where you can bend and more flexible. Then every other day I lift weights, and then every day I ride. In the afternoons, when I get back home, I ride a bicycle up and down the beach or wherever I'm at for about 45 minutes, just real slow, just to get some motion into it. And then I get on a regular bicycle and I go ride real hard for about 45 minutes to an hour. So that takes up pretty much of the day. And recently I've gone back on the road doing stuff for Mello Yala and doing PR, so I haven't done as much in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but that's pretty much what I was doing for the last month and a half or 2 months.
The injury wasn't all bad for Kyle. His time away from the track was turned into quality time with his family. His injury was also tough on his team, as 3 different drivers took the wheel during Kyle's sabbatical from Sabco Racing.
You know, our goal as a team pretty much went out the window May 6th at Talladega. So that hurt our team morale because we had a goal set at the beginning of the year. We had worked all winter for one thing, and then all of a sudden that was taken away from us. So we had to regroup. And, you know, Gary and those guys had to say, okay, now we've got another driver. We've got to work with this driver. We've got to put this car up front for Mello Yellow, for Pontiac, for Mobil 1, for our sponsors to say, okay, we can still be a team and we can still run competitive. And they've had good luck with Bobby, and they've had some bad luck with Bobby. Just certain things have just kept them out of running good a lot of times. So, you know, Bobby's done a good job for us, and it's been good for the team to keep running. But, you know, the whole time it was like we started all together, all of us, Gary, John, Donnie, Jim Long, Jim Sutton, everybody started together with me as a driver, and it's like when I wasn't there, then it was like I wasn't part of the team anymore, and it kind of, you know, I went through some emotional times there by feeling like I wasn't part of this team anymore, but, you know, I'd go by the shop and hang out with them, and they always made you feel like you were part of it, so I've been trying to get back as quick as I could.
It was Tuesday, August 20th at Darlington, when Kyle climbed back behind the wheel for the first time. After 14 weeks of rehab, this was to be his best therapy.
It's slow. It's not, you know, that's the first thing I noticed when I went out and I run. You know, it wasn't a big deal to go out and just run as hard as I could run, but it's just running a lot of laps and keeping in a rhythm. That's what I've had to work on. You know, I get on the gas too early sometimes. I get off the gas too early sometimes. I get on the brakes too hard or not hard enough. And that's what we're spending these 2 days for, is just to try to get some sense of rhythm back as far as what it's like to go race and what it's like to run 50 or 100 laps and race with people. So, you know, that was the main thing in coming back, was to try to get some type of rhythm and not just be thrown into it. That's why I wanted to come back this year and be able to run some races and get back in the rhythm of racing week in and week out, instead of setting out the whole year and then coming back at Daytona, because I knew it was going to be hard to do.
Kyle's comeback came in the Heinz Southern 500. It was cameras, crew members, and race cars, and he couldn't have been happier. Kyle had his Mello Yellow Pontiac as high as 4th place before his engine, not his leg, gave out. He finished only 22nd, but the main thing was Kyle finished.
For me to set out for three or four months or whatever and then have to get used to it again, and I wasn't too sure how used to it I was going to be.
How was it out there for you today?
Well, I don't know. I scared myself a couple times, I guess, so you know, I guess that's pretty normal. If you don't scare yourself 6 or 7 times a race, you're not having a good time.
It certainly was good to see Kyle back, and he did okay for himself in the Heinz Southern 500 the first time back, and look for him to do better as time goes by. We need to take a short break, and as we leave you for this break, here's this week's Haviland Track Talk.
This edition of Track Talk is brought to you by Haviland. Add more life to your car.
What exactly are you doing?
Rating this spring right here to check and see what the different rates are on the springs for the front end of the car.
You don't see that happen a lot, but you do see guys checking springs. Do springs change, like after you've used them over a certain period of time?
No, they don't change that much, but what we're using here is I'm trying to find the exact right by using the half a rubber and trying to find an in-between weight that we don't really have as the rate of the springs.
I always see teams using and changing rubbers during a race. Has it become more prominent, or are we just seeing it more?
Well, it's becoming a little more prominent because with the radial tires, we're having to fine-tune the cars a lot more. And it gives you an in-between where you got like your Pacific hundreds with your springs in the shop that you cut your spring lengths and all to. This gives you an in-between. You can use a half rubber and a whole rubber. With the rubber, it allows you to have a lot more flexibility with having a lot less springs in your truck and all. And the different lengths and all that you've got there and everything that you play with, and the rubber does give you that flexibility of not carrying quite as many springs, especially for a low finance team.
3.
Davy Allison believes. Mario and Michael Andretti believe. Don Prudhomme believes. For complete protection, you need a complete motor oil. New Haviland Formula 3 motor oil.
Yeah.
Where can you go on Goodyear Wrangler radials? So where can you go on Goodyear Wrangler radials? Just about anywhere you want. Put on a set of Goodyear Wrangler radials, and you'll know why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its real draft taste, the world is a very cool place.
Hi, this is Charlie Chase along with my friend and latest funny business victim, Alan Jackson. Be sure to be watching because it's going to be very revealing.
He hid the microphone in the plant. I'm gonna kill you.
We'll also find out what happens when two restless heart fans get out of control, the winner of our first Funny Business Laugh-Off, and a visit from Williams & Ree.
Funny Business with Charlie Chase, Wednesday, 8 and 11 p.m. Eastern on TNN.
Watch TNN Motorsports Magazine. It's the latest word before the green flag. 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Sports Sunday.
The Winston Cup cars will compete under the lights at the Richmond International Raceway for the first time ever. Next week, we'll have all the high-speed action under the stars in the Miller Genuine Draft 400.
The Busch Grand National Series rolled out of Darlington on the road to Richmond for a Friday night fight under the lights. Bobby Labonte took with him the lead in the chase for the Drivers' Point Championship. We'll have all the highlights of the Autolite Platinum 200.
Max Helton is NASCAR's pastor in the pits. On Sunday mornings, he makes sure everyone has a church to attend, but his support to the racing community is much greater than that. You'll meet Max next week.
The NASCAR Busch Grand National drivers ran the Gatorade 200 here at Darlington on Saturday. It was a hot day, and there was a hot point battle going into this race, and it heated up more as time went by. But Bill Weber, it was the Winston Cup drivers who shined at the start of the race and at the end.
Ned Harry Gant won the pole for the Gatorade 200, but there's a race within a race as we head down the stretch in 1991. Coming into Darlington, Kenny Wallace led Bobby Labonte by 70 points in the chase for the Drivers' Championship. Kenny, I know it's a tough call. Do you race to win the battle or win the war?
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of both. It's a 50-50 deal. You got to win, you got to run up front. But then again, you can't run him back because Bobby's chasing me right now. I don't want to get in a situation where I'm chasing him, and I think you got to do both.
Harry Gant led the 38-car field off pit road and onto the 1.3-mile track. At the start, Gant's green number 7 surged in front, leading Jimmy Hensley, Todd Bodine, Chuck Bown, and a stumbling Kenny Wallace, who backpedaled through the field after starting fourth. Dale Earnhardt dared Darlington and charged forward from 16th to 5th after 20 laps and into 3rd after 30. Gant led the first 52 laps, but Bodine in the Hungry Jack Buick was an impressive performer, pedaling a consistent 2nd and overhauling Gant on lap 53. Ward Burton was running 5th when he brought out the first caution on lap 54 after sliding out of turn 2 and tagging the wall. Following pit stops, Gant held the lead for the restart on lap 61. But just 2 laps later, the second and final caution of the day came out for a Dale Jarrett spin in turn 3. When green flag racing resumed on lap 67, the front 4 cars featured Winston Cup regulars Gant, Earnhardt, Waltrip, and Ernie Irvan. Bodine was 5th and Bobby Labonte was running 6th. At the halfway mark, Earnhardt took the lead from Gant and quickly stretched out a comfortable cushion. Gant's setup soured and he slipped from 2nd to 7th in the last 47 laps. Earnhardt raced to a 6-second win over Michael Waltrip, and Labonte outdueled Darrell Waltrip to finish 5th, taking a 1-point lead in the race for the Drivers' Championship.
Today's Mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
And our question today comes from Susie Cortona of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who writes, when a car is being set up for a race, I frequently hear the terms set the toe in and toe out. I usually hear the term stagger with it. What do these terms mean, and how does it affect the speed or handling of the car? Well, Susie, for that answer, we'll go to Bill Wilburn, who is one of the tire changers on the Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac that Rusty Wallace drives.
Well, Susie, that's a good question. The toe out is the alignment of the front wheels as far as parallel to the frame rails. A lot of times we run the tires turned, the right front will be turned out about a 16th and the left front will be turned out about a 16th. So we'd have like an 1/8 inch of what we call toe out. And stagger is what is the differential of the size between the right side and the left side tires. With the radial tires, the stagger, as we call it, is preset from Goodyear. We can't change it like we can with the bias tires. We can swap tires around and have an inch of stagger or a 1/2 inch of stagger. It just depends on what the car's handling dictates.
If you have any race questions, you can write to us at Inside Winston Cup Racing, Box 240-417, Charlotte 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket free. Fans 21 and under will receive an IWCR cap and T-shirt.
Our time's up for today, and as we leave you this week, there's more sad news to report. Our good friend Harold Kinder passed away after the race at Darlington on Monday. He was one of the most popular officials in all of auto racing. He was the chief starter for NASCAR Winston Cup Racing for many years. And just last year, this plaque was installed here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Kinder Stand, to honor the man who had meant so much to so many people over the years in racing. Certainly he will be missed. God bless he and his family. We'll see you here next week.
Today's show has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Winning the world over with 1991 trucks that are built Ford tough. By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Transportation for Inside Winston Cup Racing provided by Fleetwood Enterprises, makers of a full line of excellent recreational vehicles. And by your Carolina Ford dealers. Nobody outsells Ford in the Carolinas.
Some of the toughest tracks in the country. The best performance vehicles compete. All street legal. All pushed beyond their limits. For man and machine, it's a test of stamina, of endurance. Come along for the ride in this fast-paced racing series. Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship. 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 Central. Only on TNN Sports Sunday.